Doop, doop, doop. Hang on a sec. Hi, everybody. Just going to wait for people to roll in for the next few minutes, and then we'll start. All right. Sorry, still got a frog in my throat. All right, everybody. Well, welcome to genetics for this semester. Happy to have you along. It was kind of weird to be doing this again, I guess, given the whole, COVID period of online teaching. But it's only going to be for a week, so it's not going to be too bad. Hopefully, I'll be able to talk for a whole hour and 15 minutes. I'm not sure I've talked that much for about a week or so. Anyway, so as you know, I'm sitting in my bed actually, which is kind of funny. But this is just for this week because I had COVID. Hopefully, don't have COVID no more. Just kind of unpleasant experience. Some of you probably already had it too. So essentially, what we're going to do today, and not Tuesday, Thursday, is go over some of the kind of resources, the expectations, how the course is structured. Some of you have had me already. Nice to see you again, Michael. So you'll be familiar with how it works, but many of you obviously won't. So that's not going well. Anyway, that's going to be probably first half or so, give or take. And then we'll just get started on the material basically. So, because there's just so much stuff to cover that even though it would have been nice to have this week off, and I was tempted, I'll be honest, we don't have that luxury, right? So, yeah. All right. So, I guess first off, we'll kind of go through what's available, right? So, many of you, I'm sure, have already. Hang on a second. I remember how to do this. Do, do, do. Aha! Here we go. Get to see what I'm looking at. So, this is what I wanted to show you, other than terrorizing you with all the tabs I have open, which seems to freak people out. This is your Blackboard page. I think it's your Blackboard page. Pretty sure this is this section. Anyway, the other one looks exactly the same. So there's a lot of information on here. And if you haven't spent some time kind of wandering around, having a look at it, it would really be a good idea to do so. Because this is really where all the information that you're going to be receiving is going to end up, right? So you're going to be interacting with this daily. I'm going to be sending you announcements about this stuff daily as well, right? And it would really be a good idea to get used to this. So often I have students go, "Oh, I didn't realize their lectures are on Blackboard." Like, yeah, they're on there. Also, as we go, and this applies to the whole course, just ask questions if you want something clarified or I'm mumbling or, whatever, right? You want me to clarify something. So first up, obviously, this is like I don't know, I should make this a landing page, but I haven't. Anyway, this is kind of your starting point. And on here, hello, Maria. This schedule is arguably the most important document on here. I'm not going to download it because I have it open already. Where are we at? Here we go. All right. So this is the outline essentially of what we're going to cover. There's a few important dates and stuff in here, which you know from elsewhere. But this is a general plan, right? It's not like rigid, pardon me, a general plan of what we're going to do for the semester, right? Week by week. It's not a fixed plan, right? So depends on the semester, depends on the class, depends on the subject too. But this can change, right? Sometimes it takes a little longer to get through something. Sometimes we zip through something quite quickly, right? So if what we're covering on a given day changes markedly, right? Not like a little bit, but like big style, then I'll update the schedule and post a new one, right? And I'll also let you know when I do via Black. So this is, da-di-da-di-da. But key points, right? Super important. Here are on Saturdays are the deadlines for the homeworks. So these are things which you'll find here in exams and quizzes. Here you go, homework. Hope these are available. Yeah, it looks like that. Anyway, if you have any problems with them, just let me know. But anyway, these are all, a series of kind of quizzes, questions, stuff like that. A way of making you revise, essentially, and also a way of getting you those points, right? We'll talk about that a little bit more later. Anyway, these have usually every couple of weeks, kind of varies from week to week. But the deadlines for those are here on Saturdays in the schedule. They're designed so that you've covered the material already, by the time that deadline comes up. It's kind of rude otherwise. There may be times when we kind of lag behind in our coverage. If that happens, I'll try and remember to change the deadlines and obviously change the schedule. If you come across a deadline, you're like, what the heck? I haven't done this yet. Let me know and I'll just change the deadline. Not a big deal, right? Sometimes things do slip through the cracks. Another big thing, obviously, are exam dates, right? So these are obviously either on Tuesdays or Thursdays. We'll talk a bit more about the exams in a bit. And these are for all of the material since either the beginning of the course or the previous exam. So exam one is going to be from anything from today. Not obviously syllabus stuff, because that would be really boring, but material that we cover today. All the way to anything that we cover on February the 14th, right? We'll talk a little bit more about exams as well in a bit. And you'll have 4 of them, right? So there's the other one after spring break, which will be lovely time. Week off. Dab down. And then all the way down to last day of classes for us, which is on the 4th of May. Seems like a long way around now, but it'll come around pretty quickly. And that is when the last exam, call it the final, because otherwise people say, well, when's the final? Right. But this is really just another exam like the other 3, right? It's not cumulative. It's just for the section before it. So essentially everything from here, all the way down to here. Okay, so it's not cumulative. All right, so anyway, make sure you download a copy of that. And if I tell you to download a new one, right? You should also be able to see the deadlines and stuff in Blackboard too. Now, what next? So let's go over what the course is made up of, essentially. Here I have my whiteboard. Kind of funny to think about having this, because I used to use this absolute ton during the online teaching days. Let's see if my pen still works. Yeah, more or less. All right, so essentially there's 2 kind of main passes to your course grade. Right, we have and this is also a rude introduction to my terrible handwriting, so which may be familiar with it already. You'll get better over time, promise. You will understand way more at the end of the course than you will at the beginning. I'm also more than happy to interpret and clarify as well, because I know my handwriting kind of sucks. Doesn't help that I'm doing it on my bed either. All right, which is where I spent most of the last week. I'm bored off my box, by the way. It's kind of nice to be talking, and doing stuff. Change. So anyway, we got a lecture and we got lab. 75% lecture, 25% lab. Right. Now, something that I've banged into my students over the years, and I think it's starting to work, right? Because I had some notable successes last semester, which I was really pleased about in terms of students passing the course. But this, let's get a different color. Well, I would use red. It's actually chewed by my puppy. He was no longer a puppy. Oh, well, that doesn't work either. Sorry, these pens are all like 2 years old, 3 years old now, I guess. Oh, that'll do. The lab is basically Ah, fudge nuts. That doesn't work either. Don't tell me we have to go with purple. Yes, sir. Lab is how you're going to get a C or better. If you neglect the lab, you're going to fail. It's pretty much as simple as that, right? Is both, well, it's largely designed to help you pass the course, right? There's also lots of other benefits to taking the lab. Otherwise, we wouldn't do it, right? It'd be a waste of time. But in terms of your success, lab is it, right? Well, a big part of it at least, right? And the reason for that is that this tests you and assesses you and kind of allows you to show your abilities as a student that aren't about taking exams, right? Because taking exams is fine and it's good, it's important and so on and so forth, but it's not essentially what we're, I don't know, after in our students, I guess. You know, we want people to think, right? Not just be able to take exams. So of that, there are assignments. These are typically weekly, not always. They're usually about 50 points each. And one at the end of the semester is 100 points because it's much bigger. So 50 to 100 points each. Right. And those add up to about, well, exactly, actually, 500 points. These are pretty straightforward, right? We go over the stuff in lab. You'll have an opportunity to ask questions and go over things the following lab, right? Which last semester many of my students did take advantage of, which is good. They're all on Blackboard. In fact, almost everything's on Blackboard, actually, to be honest. Obviously an important thing. Anyway, and they're relatively straightforward, right? Drawing graphs, answering questions, looking at PowerPoint, answering questions, stuff like that, right? So something that, as long as you put the time in, it'd be really surprising if you didn't get full marks for it, right? But you have to put the time in, you have to keep on top of your shit, right? That's kind of a recurring theme in genetics. And then we've got a big semester-long project, and basically you're going to be doing a fly cross, so crossing fruit flies of different genotypes together and recording the output, which I think is a pretty cool experiment. And maybe this semester it'll actually work properly. Maybe. Anyway, so this is a total of 300 points. We'll talk more about these individually in the lab itself. So I'm not going to spend, much more time on that. But just to say that this is 25% of your grade. If you want to get a C or better in genetics, which last semester, I think about 60, maybe 65% of my students did, give or take. Can't remember exactly, but around there. You have to make sure you keep on top of your stuff for the lab, right? Easy money, basically, is how I would put it. And it's partly designed that way. That's why the lab isn't a separate course, right? It's part of your overall genetics course so that it can help balance out your performance in the exams, right? If anybody's got any questions, just put it in the chat. Something should pop up to let me know, or unmute yourself and just ask, right? Don't be shy, right? That's actually another thing we'll talk about in a bit. Right, so lecture. This is like keep wanting to hum the theme tune of the like Star Wars, the Stormtroopers coming. So 4/5 of this 75% are exams, and these are very hard, right? Make no apologies for that. They're designed to test your knowledge and your understanding. We'll talk about why they're hard in a little bit, but they're very hard, right? So you have to be working on studying from these from the moment we start that section. And I've got a question in the chat. Oh, all right. So hi, Maria. Question about lab this week. There is no good question, actually. I forgot to mention that. Scam calls. There is no lab this week. So if you go to Blackboard, there's in the same part of where is it? The syllabus and stuff. Anyway, you'll see there's a schedule there and there's no lab scheduled for this week. Start next week. So I'll be taking the first Tuesday lab, and Miss Gabrielle Vaughan, or Gabby, will be taking the other two. I worked with her last semester, and she's really good. Takes it very seriously. So anyway, as for the assignments, how do you mean? The assignments for lab or the assignments for lecture?
I meant the assignments for lab because I was wondering if we don't do anything this week, everything's pushed to next week. So then we start everything.
Yeah. That's right. So first lab is next week, and then the deadline for the assignment for that lab would be, I think, the week after that. Yeah, so everything's just pushed back a week.
Thank you.
No worries. Yeah, often we don't have lab in the first week because that's some like funky ass start to the semester, which means we can't run all the labs in the first week. So this semester actually we could, but we're not because I'm sick. Anyway, if anyone has any issues like reading what scribblings I'm putting up here, do let me know. Be more than happy to slow down and explain. All right, so yeah, very hard exams, and then those homeworks. These are, what are they, 40 points each, I think. Right, so in a sense, these are also another way in which you can bolster your grade, or at least in a sense collect points, right? So this is something that they're regular. They're not designed to be like exams. They're not exams. They're not even really tests. They're just ways for you to go over the material. You can ask me questions about them, right? So they're not exams or tests. They are essentially like weekly or bi-week, fortnightly study guides, right? They cover a lot of the language that we're going to be using. They've got problems in there that you can work through. They're kind of like the questions at the end of the chapter in the textbook, right? So you can go over them and test your knowledge and kind of keep up to date. They're also, as well, a way that you can kind of accumulate points. Maybe 40 points each. I think they're actually 25 points. Math is not my strong suit. There you go. So they're relatively kind of low impact, right? They're only 25 points each. So if you miss a question, it's not a big deal. Typically there's, you get 2 attempts, right? So if you didn't get full grades first time, you can go back and kind of try again, see if you can get better. You can also ask me questions. They do have deadlines, right? Because what I found when I didn't have deadlines is that students just leave them all to the end of the semester and then they get in a big panic to try and get them finished in time. All right, so the deadlines are really there to help you do them and keep on top of your stuff and to get into this habit of making, this week I got to do this. Next week I got to do this, right? Getting your calendar sorted out. Actually, let's show you. Here's my calendar. Yada, yada, yada. Get over there. So I have a calendar, right? It's usually actually for my kids' doctor's appointments and stuff and family birthdays and the like. But this is how I remember stuff, right? So whatever, if you have an iPhone or an Android or just use a computer, even if you have a calendar on the wall, it doesn't matter. Use it, right? Set yourself reminders. If you don't, oh, another good question, Maria. Okay, to you in a second. If you don't finish the homework in time, right? Something happens, you got a family emergency or whatever, or you just forget. I don't really mind. Let me know and I can open the deadline for another few days for you to complete it, right? They are not tests. They are there to help you get a better grade, right? And so if you do all of those, that's 200 points, which is what I'm doing my math right. 75, that's 15% of your final grade, right? Which is a grade and a half, right? That can be the difference between passing with a C or getting a D and having to take this course all over again next semester to be able to continue in your major. All right, so it's really worth doing. Okay, question again from Maria. Do we need to buy a textbook? You do not need to buy a textbook, but you can buy one if you wish, right? So hang on, Victoria, get to your question in a second. Textbooks, yes. So it depends on what you're going to get out of the textbook. Me personally, I don't get on with textbooks a whole bunch. I learn in different ways. I look at a lot of different sources. Other people get a lot of benefit from textbooks. One of the biggest selling points, in my opinion, of textbooks are the questions at the ends of the chapter, right? So you can quiz yourself on how much you know of the material, right? Which is a very big deal, right? Because most students only quiz themselves on what they know in the exam, by which time it's too late, right? So that's a very big plus. You can get, there's a new edition, 7th edition, which is what's in the bookstore, I believe. But also the 6th edition, which is the previous one, is, as far as I'm aware, just as good. Can't really figure out many differences between it, to be honest. And the reading guides are posted for both of those. Whoa, hang on, Maria, give me a second. So, where are we at? Oh yeah, thank you, Michael. Yeah, so the 6th edition, so you got the readings just here, essentially, and some learning goals or essentially a study guide here as well. Yeah, so the 6th edition is way cheap. It's like $40 to buy it. As Michael found, it's $15 to rent it. It's as good as far as I'm aware, as a 7th edition, and it will save you a load of money. I had a question on the homeworks about whether you see which ones you got wrong after the first attempt. I need to fix that because Blackboard is a pain in the ass, to be honest, in many ways. And one of my grad students I was working with last semester showed me a way of doing it. So I need to go through and fix that. The aim is, yes, you should be able to see what you got wrong. But I've got to figure it out. Got to dig up an email in which she told me how to do that. But yeah, that's on the works. So let me make myself a reminder, because I do have a terrible memory. Do that after class. There you go. That's just in case I like, woo, finish class. I forget and go and have coffee or something like that. So contact info is in the syllabus, not the schedule, but the syllabus. So that's got my email address, which is matthew.crook. So that's my email address. Email is usually the best way of getting hold of me. I don't think I've ever answered my phone in my office. Oh, good question, Haley. Response time is I aim for the same day during the week, and that's largely so I don't just get kind of totally overwhelmed. Yeah, so if you email me, I don't know, say before afternoon coffee, I should reply to you the same day. If you email me over the weekend, then I might be more delayed because I might not be looking at my computer. So that's typically my aim. Sometimes I don't always manage. I'm plowed under with other stuff, but I do try to. Office hours and policy on office hours. So office hours are a weird and funky thing, to be honest. I found that students don't show up to them. So partly because they don't work for them in terms of hours, because everyone's schedule is different. Partly because I don't know what they think I'm scary or whatever. So generally speaking, office hours I do on request. So if you want to talk about anything, just let me know. I've got a reasonably open schedule, and we can either meet in person in my office. Office number is in syllabus, or we can meet like this over Zoom, which actually is kind of handy because, you know, saves you having to come onto campus and stuff like that. So I have done that for several semesters now, and seems to work pretty well. Sometimes it's been as often as once a week for individual students, depending on what they need. So it's really kind of something that's on you to initiate, but I'm super happy to do that. It's part of my job, and I think it's a great way for you to do better at the course as well. But you just have to ask, right? But please do, right? And if you want to come with your buddies, that's great. If you want to do it on your own, that's also fine too. Another question from Haley. Attendance is attendance part of the grade? The answer is no. So you show up or you don't show up is entirely up to you. You're adults, you're paying for this. One thing I would say though is that correlation is not causation, right? But in this case, I think it may well be. My experience, students that show up pass. It's almost as simple as that. So if you attend class either on Zoom, which how many of you do we actually have? Oh, almost all of you. That's cool. Either on Zoom, which hopefully it's not going to be past this week, or in person. Almost all of the students, I'm trying to think back carefully. Yeah, obviously, if you show up, it's not a guarantee you're going to pass, right? Because you also have to put the work in. But it does very well work the other way. If you don't show up, the likelihood of you passing is very small, right? And I don't know exact reasons for that. I think it's because this is just a hard course and it's very hard to self-motivate you to study all of it. Some students can, power to you. All the material is going to be available to do so if you wish, but most students aren't, right? You've got a lot of other stuff going on, and it's just a hard course with just a constant flow of information. Doesn't stop. Like from today until, when is it? May the 2nd, it will be a constant outpouring, a fire hose of information, right? And so if you don't attend, you may have good intentions as to catching up with your notes and the material. Something else will happen. You got an assignment, you gotta go do a work shift, your sister's kid's sick or whatever, right? And you'll fall behind. And the moment you fall behind, you will drown, right? You will not be able to catch up because there's just too much stuff. Maybe one lecture, but 1 week, it will be next to impossible. And so typically when students don't attend, they stop doing their homeworks, they don't do the lab work, and after that, it's done, right? You are not going to be able to get a C or better, right? And so think of attendance as being the life vest which keeps your head above water, right? Doesn't mean you're going to get rescued, but it does mean you're not going to drown, right? That's probably the most important reason to attend classes. Not because you get a grade for it, anything like that. You're all adults. Whether you do this or not is up to you, right? Hopefully you want to, but if you don't, that's your choice too. But attend classes, which actually, gets me on to like the big spiel. I've already been doing part of it. So one of my, I guess, challenges in teaching this course is getting students through it. In other words, not seeing you again next semester. Now, obviously, different students have different reasons for not passing, and sometimes it's just one of those things, right? So there's no harm in it, there's no shame in it, but it should be because of things outside of your control, right? Ideally. This is a really, really hard course, right? It's a very hard course for a lot of reasons. One, I'm trying to give you essentially a foundation for all of biology, right? You may argue that there's not much genetics in, I don't know, fluffy pandas and, I don't know what, like big picture ecology type stuff. Well, there is. There's genetics underneath everything. It is really, in many ways, the topic or field which underlies all of biology, all of life, right? All of life is the way it is, where it is, how it is, because of genetics in one way or another, right? And that scale can be from the tiny genetics, right? We're talking about individual base codes or single nucleotide polymorphisms that just change whether a virus is infective or not infective or whatever, right? All the way up to the flow of information over thousands of years and across thousands of miles in big picture population genetics and evolution, right? All of it comes down to genetics. So as in a sense, I'm trying to teach you all of biology, kind of all at once, right? Like that film, Everything Everywhere All at Once, which is super cool. It's really hard, right? And so I've got a lot of things which I have to teach you, right? It's not a choice. I don't kind of get to skip them if I'm bored or, I want to talk about fluffy bunnets or, cat genetics, which is my favorite thing. I have to teach you this stuff because there are so many other courses that you're going to take later on in your career which rely on this, right? So that's one reason, right? It's kind of like essentially it's a responsibility, right, in many ways on my part, so that my colleagues don't have students that don't know what they're doing, right? And similarly, this is also one of those kind of key transition courses, right? This is what divides you from high school and entry-level biology, which is pretty straightforward, to be honest, even though there's lots of stuff, from some really cool, challenging upper division courses, right? So this is like a pivotal moment. And it's not just about material, right? Knowledge, stuff like that. It's also about study habits, how you comport yourself as a student, how you study, how you interact with your professors, right? Which is really what sets your trajectory for the rest of your college career, right? And so this is in many ways like a watershed, right? And so what you learn here will stand you, hopefully, in good stead for every other course that you've taken. And I've had many students tell me that, particularly when they're taking, say, my developmental biology or developmental genetics course, which is a 4,000 level course, super, super cool, very hardcore genetics, way, way above what we're going to be talking about, but still based on what we've learned in this course, right? So that's why there's just so much stuff. There's a lot of responsibility. There's lots of things you've got to learn. And also at the same time, you're learning all kinds of skills, how to manage your time, right? How to not get drowned by coursework, how to balance all these different things that you've got to do, right? Which is not trivial, right? And also how to kind of develop into the student that you will become, right? Which is kind of a really cool part. It's what I really enjoy personally. And I love seeing students from, intro bio through genetics. And I actually had a student who just graduated, actually, who I had for 4 courses. And it was really cool. You get to see them, how they develop, right? And so this is really kind of that pivotal moment. And that's why the rigor is so high, right? So technically, I could just go, whatevs, and just push you all through and let someone else deal with it. But you get into evolution, for example, and you'd be like, what the heck? I don't understand. I've got all this math stuff going on. I've got all these different things. I'm lost, right? And so if you can pass this course, that gives you a really good chance passing the next course, right? That's why it's a hard course, right? Because then you're ready to go on and do these other courses, which are really where, your individual interests are going to start to develop. All right. So in terms of expectations, I've got quite high expectations for you, right? Number one, the 10 class, right? Actually, let's get a picture of this and I'll write them down because they're so important. I actually got a smartphone now. There's probably a number of people that remember me with my digital camera, few and far between now, but this is a relative new thing. It also records me as well, which is kind of neat. Not in Zoom because I've got a recording anyway, but when I'm in class anyway. All right. All right, expectations. Number one, ten class. It is probably the singular most important thing that you can do in order to be successful. There we go. Right. Second, and this is almost as important, kind of depends on the student, but I am very happy to see you doing this already. Ask questions. don't expect to understand everything the moment it comes out of my mouth, right? It's just not going to happen. Learning is a very kind of iterative thing. You know, you do it over and over to reinforce particular concepts and ideas and facts. That's why I can do this without using a PowerPoint, right? I've done this so many times. I just know what I want to say and I know how I want to say it, right? So ask questions that will help in several ways. And actually kind of the science of learning is pretty interesting in and of itself. One, asking questions is what's called active learning. So it will help answer a question, one hopes, right? Because you might be like, you know, there are like how many histone, you know, proteins? You said there's 8, but there's another one here. It's like, what's that? It's like, okay, then I can explain that, right? So clarification of some fact or concept, right, is important. That's why you ask questions. That's why most people ask questions. But the other benefits are, particularly, it will mean that you're engaged, right? If you ask a question, that kind of puts a hook in your brain, so to speak, that links that bit of information with something else. That will allow you to pull it out a little bit easier come exam time, or when you need to come back to it to think about something else, right? Some other concept or fact, right? So active learning is key. Asking questions is part of that, right? Second, it will kind of help you engage with the class, right? So I think this stuff is awesome, right? I love teaching genetics. It's like, well, that's why I'm a geneticist, right? It is a constant life of learning. I learn something every semester, quite often a lot of things, right? And so I love teaching this. And I want you to be engaged with that material because it's so cool, right? And the more you're engaged with it, the more you'll enjoy learning it and the better you will do so, right? Ergo, more successful you are, won't have to see you again next semester, right? Also, asking questions is great because it means other people will want to ask questions too, right? So there are no such things as dumb questions. Sounds like a bit of a trope, but it's true, right? Because even if the question you ask is a little bit inane and, you know, kind of not really pertinent, I think in astrobiology, one of my students asked, do I believe in aliens? And I was like, well, I don't know how to answer that. You know, so we had a bit of discussion about that. But even so, it means other people are like, oh, I can ask questions too, right? I'll never not answer a question. I'll never make you feel stupid for asking a question, right? Because asking questions is so important to how you learn. Okay, cool. All right. And then the last one, and this is kind of really in terms of pillow is not quite the right shape. This is actually something like a bigger concept that some of you will get better than others, and all of you hopefully will develop over time. And that is called active learning. Right, so many of you have been used to learning by, or particularly studying. That's kind of a difference. Studying by cramming information, memorizing information, right? Just kind of like pounding it into your head, hoping it stays there long enough for you to get to the exam and just kind of blurb it back out again, right? And in particular, from experience that my daughters are going through in high school teaches you to do that a lot, right? I'm not so interested in just basic fact retention, because if you wanted to, you could go to Wikipedia and you just type in, I don't know, chromatin. All right, and you can find all this information. You can find a bunch of pictures. You can, Wikipedia is actually pretty good. I actually really like Wikipedia, right? You can find all kinds of information, yada, 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 right? But it's not going to do anything to actually help you understand why chromatin is important, right? So what you need to do is what I call active learning, which I'm going to just stop the share briefly. So that should make that a little bit bigger. Right, so key parts, active learning. Study groups, right? It's almost guaranteed that some of you will understand certain things better than others of you will. It's just normal, right? You all have different strengths and weaknesses in terms of your what you understand and what you remember. And so if you get a study group, and I would suggest finding the best students in the class and asking them, can I be in a study group with you, right? Even if you are the best student in the class, you still want to do this. And ask yourself questions, right? Which also comes back to there, right? Asking questions, finding out what you don't know. Seek out information, right? So the way that I learn is pretty much as I showed you in Wikipedia, right? Obviously, I don't need to type in chromatin to Wikipedia because I already know quite a bit about it. But my first step is almost always to find a source of information to begin with. Right? Wikipedia is actually pretty good, right? So, we've got, pardon me, nice picture. Back. I get back. Sorry, I can't see half of my screen with all the other stuff around it right now. Gets you the basic information. Then, that looks interesting. Right, and then it'll start getting you into more details. Right, and then you'll be like, okay, transcriptional bursting. I don't know what that is. Let's have a look at that. Actually, I don't know what it is. I'm kind of interested. So look through this. Maybe that doesn't help. Then go up here. Are there any videos on it? Oh, something from Princeton University. Yeah, that's like ages ago. All right, here's something different. All right, so this is a seminar. I want to look at that, maybe make some notes. That might lead to more questions, right? I'd start looking into that. So on and so forth, right? And quite often I feel like Alice in the rabbit hole, right? Kind of diving down and you just never know when you're going to come out. Sometimes it can take a while. You don't want to spend huge amounts of time on individual bits because, you've got a lot of other stuff you need to learn and study too. But this kind of seeking, right, also puts those hooks into your head, right? and it helps you kind of build connections with other bits of information, right? And that's also something which will reinforce what you know and allow you to get it out more easily, right? That's kind of a big key point to make, right? It's no good just being able to put the information in there. You have to be able to get it out as well. Oh, cool. Thank you, Haley. Check the chat for a group me for genetics. Yeah, that'd be I don't know if that's a help group or support group or a study group. Probably all of the three, right? But anyway, do that. Come back to me when you have questions too, right? So sometimes you can answer all of these questions yourself. Sometimes you kind of hit a brick wall and you can't figure out your way past it, right? So make a list of those, come bring them to me and we'll go through them, right? Sometimes it just takes a different perspective to get something. What else? What else do we want to talk about? I reckon that's probably about it, to be honest. We'll talk more about the exams and what the exams look like and so on and so forth closer to the time. I'll see if I've got an old exam that I can dig out for you to be able to give you an idea of what the exam will look like. I don't think I have anything much more to say, to be honest. Not really enough time to get going on any kind of like material, I don't think. Oh, Fatima, the link is just a little bit higher up in the chat. What's it? Chat page, chat window, whatever you call. I'll post a transcript if I can find it. Should be able to of the chat as well to Blackboard when we're done. Oh, there you go. I knew I'd forgotten something. So, dum dum dum. Pet pics. So, other material that's available for you too. All the PowerPoints are here. I don't generally use them apart from online teaching, just because I prefer doing stuff on the whiteboard. Oh, make sure next week you have a selection of colors, a notebook to be able to take notes, right? What else was I going to talk about? There's also these, which are basically audio walkthroughs of the PowerPoints, which may help. I know some people have listened to them on their way to and from work and things like that. Kind of like podcasts, I guess. That's just another source of information. And also, I'm just creating it now before I forget. Oh, sorry, Kay. Confuddled things a little bit there. You don't have to bring dry erase markers. I've got loads of those myself. You do need to bring colored pencils, colored pens, and a biggish notebook, like what do they call it? Letter size here, A4 in the UK, right? So don't try making notes on something tiny. That will just give you no end of frustration. Big, nice notebook to be able to make notes in. Or some people successfully use tablets. If you have a tablet you can use, I don't know, that's another option too. So board pics, which are going to get moved up. This will be where I put all of the pictures from, we'll get there eventually. All of the pictures from today's class, every day's class, in fact. So you'll be able to go back to those and, maybe your notes were a little bit craggly at the time, or you just wanted to double check something. All of the pictures will be there. So you can download them, you can look at them whenever you wish. And also so for this week, the recordings from this will be posted to YouTube, and I'll post a link to that afterwards. For regular classes in person, instead I'll be recording audio on my phone, and that will be posted to Google Drive, and I'll send you a link for that too. Right, so there's lots of stuff available. Make use of it as you wish, essentially. I think that's about it, really. Anybody got any questions? Anything and everything? You can also check out pet pics here. Here's Pepper, schnoz pics, so on and so forth. If you have particularly cute, she is very cute. She's a little nut job as well. There's Luna, and there's our latest cricket. Anyway, actually, where would that be? Dun, dun, dun. Sorry, I'm just getting distracted now. Oh yeah, I've got to post these up. I honestly actually can't remember whose cat this is. So from one of the times, isn't that cute? Probably a full-grown cat now. Anyway, it's a genetics kitten. Ta-da! I don't think you can upload them yourself, but you can send them to me and I'll upload them for you. Absolutely. Yeah, particularly if they're doing cute things or if they have, I don't know, extra toes or anything. I'm always excited about polydactyl cats, as you'll learn later on. Yeah, anyway, I think that's enough for me today. Probably want to go off and do other stuff. So same time, same place on Thursday. Thursday will actually start proper on stuff. And yeah, great to meet you all. Hope to pigs count, of course. Pigs are super cool. Very interesting animals. Smart too. But yeah, see you Thursday. Thanks everybody. Take care.